LeBron James has yet to make a decision on where he will play next season. Wembanyama took less than the max on his new contract extension with the Spurs. To the MLB Home Run Derby live up to the hype as the All-Star Game takes place tonight. There is a new world champion in all elite wrestling, and Conor McGregor unfortunately goes down in his return to the Octagon. Championship rings with Brandon Lewis and Josh Ungar begins now.
And it is a Tuesday. We are back. It is July 14, 2026. As always, I'm Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World. That is the host of the Sports Room Talk Show, Under the Max. Welcome to episode 130 of Championship Rings.
Yep. And a week ago, we were still waiting for LeBron to make a decision. Guess what? We're still waiting.
So I know you have a theory on this. Here's my theory. I think everybody's looking into, what does this mean? Does the later he doesn't announce his decision mean he's not coming to the Cleveland, or does it mean he is coming to Cleveland? I think we're all looking too much into it. I actually believe he already does know where he wants to sign, and I believe he knew 2-3 weeks ago. I think LeBron is actually waiting on something. And that something has nothing to do with basketball. There is a sporting event going on right now that is the talk of many sports shows right now around the country. We have not done barely any of it on this show because I know absolutely nothing about soccer. But I have a belief that LeBron is waiting till the end of the World Cup to announce his decision, because he knows the World Cup right now is a media circus. That's what everybody is talking about. And LeBron wants to hog the spotlight. He wants to be the center of attention. He wants shows like ours to talk about his decision. And with the World Cup going on, he's just not going to be the top story. That's my theory.
So I tweeted you about this, and I stand by it. The longer this goes on, the less likely I believe it is that he's coming to Cleveland, and the more likely I believe it is that he will team up with Giannis Antetokounmpo in South Beach with the Miami Heat. I don't know why, but I just get this feeling that with this whole thing going on and on, it feels like it's leaning towards Miami. I wish I could go into detail and explain why, but I'm not entirely sure. It's just one of those like weird feelings.
See, to me, the Miami situation would have made sense if he would have said immediately, once they got Giannis, okay, I'm going there. We're going to form a duo. Maybe, and we don't really have this in the rundown. I don't know if the Kawhi Leonard Clippers potentially trade falling through is a factor. I don't think it is, because again, I think LeBron's already made up his mind. And I know there's talking about Philly, which undoubtedly, I think even more than Cleveland, you could make a case Philadelphia basketball-wise, especially with the addition of Jaylen Brown, is the best fit. However, I would compare the Sixers, and they'd be a lot better, but it would be very similar to LeBron doing what Michael Jordan did in the last 2 years when he joined the Wizards. Join a random franchise he has no affiliation with. It's just a hoop. Obviously Philadelphia is in contention to win a championship. But if you want that championship to mean something, it may sound crazy, but I think LeBron coming back here and doing it again when the Cavs have, I guess, remotely close last year, got to the conference finals, but they haven't won a conference finals game since he left 8 years ago. Sure, it wouldn't be the same feeling as 2016, but when you're through a sports drought like this town has, and the Cavs are the only championship we've had since 2016, yeah, it's going to feel different.
Yeah, and Golden State keeps getting mentioned because of everything with LeBron and Draymond, and we know about the connection with LeBron and Steph from the Olympics back in Paris and what they did together. So Golden State continues to get mentioned. Minnesota to a lesser degree. But the three primary teams I keep hearing are Cleveland, Miami, and Philadelphia. And of those, Cleveland and Miami rather, make the most sense because those are the two places where he won championships. Let me rephrase. The two most prominent championships, if you get what I mean.
Yes, and I will say this. I don't care about what Shams has reported. I don't care about what Brian Windhorst, who claims he's been in LeBron's camp for 20 years, has reported. I don't care about Rich Paul going on a podcast, which I believe is his, with Max Kellerman. I don't really care about any of that. Because as I said last week, it's all publicity. It's what LeBron wants. It's what I said at the start of today's show. LeBron wants shows like ours to talk about him. And as long as the World Cup is going on, he is going to be the secondary story. I mean, think about it. Even when he left the Lakers and when Giannis got moved to Miami and when Kawhi Leonard, a trade we all thought was happening, and he would go to Toronto, and Jaylen Brown got moved from the Celtics to the Sixers. NBA free agency was the second biggest story of the summer compared to the World Cup.
Yes. And I have heard that LeBron is going to be doing a podcast, I believe, Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, with Tyrese Halliburton.
Now, that's interesting. I will say this. Our friend at ESPN Cleveland, Tony Rizzo, who sort of broke the Myles Garrett trade. If you remember, he said that he was hearing that day Garrett's trade to the Rams was heating up. He said, don't be surprised if it gets done later in the day. A couple hours later, he was right on it. Myles Garrett became a Los Angeles Ram. We're going to talk about the Rams a little bit later on tonight's show. I don't know if you saw this today. Rizzo claims that by 9 p.m. tonight, we're going to know LeBron's decision. And he has been tweeting eyeball emojis. And I will say this again. I don't have any inclination to believe him, but he's also not that type of guy that makes up BS.
People are now saying that the Pacers could be a sleeper team in the LeBron sweepstakes.
Makes absolutely no sense at all. Because, and here's the thing, Minnesota to me doesn't make sense. It's a lateral move because you still got to get through San Antonio and you still got to get through OKC. Golden State thing only makes sense because he'd go there for fun. He wouldn't go there to intentionally win a championship. If he wants to win a championship, his best shot is out east. Now, I do believe Rich Paul when he said if the Knicks did not win the championship, LeBron would already be a Knick. And I co-sign that because I have believed that for the last few years. We always were talking about the Knicks, and we're saying, like the Cavs, a player like LeBron, a 3-and-D wing guy, which they ended up getting in OG Anunoby, is the type of guy the Knicks would need to eventually get them over the hump. And former Cavs players are making good points about the Cavs and their softness, and they don't believe that LeBron could win a championship here. And I get it. I think we as Cleveland fans are just so emotionally invested on this ride once again.
By the way, I looked it up. Yes, LeBron James is scheduled for a live recording of his Mind the Game podcast with special guest Tyrese Halliburton this Thursday, July 16th at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time. The event is taking place at Fanatics Fest in New York City, sparking widespread speculation that he might use the platform to announce his 2026 free agency decision.
He very well could. You know, if you remember all the ways LeBron has done it, right? 2010, we know it was the TV show with Jim Gray, The Decision. 2014 was the SI letter. 2018 was the Instagram post for Rich Paul's Clutch Agency. So he's done it a little bit different every time. A live podcast moment would be different.
It would. A lot of people are speculating the Warriors, not just because of the recent LeBron Draymond Green stuff, but they also hired Frank Vogel to be on Steve Kerr's coaching staff. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. And again, I don't think it means LeBron's going there, but I don't think it hurts the speculation. But I honest to God believe he's known where he's wanted to go for the last 2 weeks. There's no way he woke up this morning and like, I believe in 2010, he was planning the Wade Bosch move way before it was announced 2-3 weeks. I feel the same thing about 2014 with the Cavs. I feel the same way about 2018 with the Lakers. I think LeBron, honest to God, the day he told the Lakers, I'm not coming back, he made his decision. Now it's just the timing of it. I don't believe all of these, the GMs and the agents, they were asked to send voice memos to Rich Paul. I said this last week. Get all that hoopla out of here.
Just wanted to clarify something. When I said it was Cleveland and Miami were his two most prominent championships, that's not to diminish what he did with the Lakers, but in Miami, that's where he won his first career championship in 2012 against OKC. And then 2013, that's one of the best NBA finals I've ever seen between Miami and San Antonio. And then, of course, in 2016, coming back from down 3-1 to beat the Warriors. That's what I meant. I just wanted to clarify that.
Josh, I want to let you know on my end, I don't know if you're seeing freezing from the video on my end, but on your end, your video is freezing constantly.
Okay, I'm seeing that same thing on your end also.
Okay, that's interesting. But let's move from LeBron to the new face of the NBA, in my opinion, Victor Wembanyama, because, well, he didn't take much of a pay cut with the Spurs. He is going to make $43 million during the 2027-2028 season 2 years from now, instead of $54 million. So that $11 million in salary is going to go other places. Maybe they put it in the likes of a Dylan Harper contract. Maybe they put it in the likes of a Stephon Castle contract. But this is very Tom Brady, Michael Jordan-esque to me. And I've said this all the time. When all these fans come out and they say, oh, I love the fact that this player got the max contract. Oh, I'm so happy for him. And I say, why? I want my players playing on a salary as cheap as I possibly can so I can build my team around said player. And in my opinion, Victor Wembanyama is going to make up what he loses in whatever deal he makes in endorsement deals, and especially if he continues winning, even if he doesn't win a championship, if he gets to the finals next year and keeps climbing at this pace. He is going to be one of the most marketed stars, if not the most marketed star in the NBA once LeBron James and Steph Curry walk out the door, and they both could be walking out the door in the next year or two. So I'm all for this. You know, I don't think he made a mistake. He's still getting a lot of money, and he's going to make up that $11 million, in my opinion, pretty quickly from Nike or whatever deal he decides to sign.
Yeah, it allows the Spurs to build up their team. You know, as you said, if he had taken the actual max contract, that would tie the Spurs' hands behind their back to a certain degree. It wouldn't allow them to re-sign Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, Julian Champagnie, if they so choose, and Vassell and some of the other key players. Whether they re-sign De'Aaron Fox or not, I don't know. What they end up doing with De'Aaron Fox, honestly, I don't know. But nonetheless, you know, San Antonio is going to be a factor again. It's them and OKC. I don't see anybody else in the Western Conference really being a legit threat to either one of them. So
I agree. I mean, listen, there's going to be a team that comes out of nowhere. I don't think it's going to be the Lakers. If Golden State ends up winning LeBron, I think they are the third best team in the West. I would take them over a Minnesota, who I think, as I've already said, is taking a step backwards. I don't trust Portland yet. I think they're sort of a year away. I don't really trust Houston. I think they've got some real locker room issues there. We'll see if Fred VanVleet can calm that locker room down.
Yeah, I don't trust Dallas yet. They just got
I don't either. They are what the Spurs were 2 years ago. I think give them a year and give Cooper Flag year 2 under Dusty May, and they could be something.
Yeah. Nobody else in the West really scares me. Like Denver, are they going to keep Jamal Murray?
At this point, I don't think Denver has a choice.
Like, is there a possibility they move Jamal Murray? I don't know.
If they were going to move Jamal Murray, it would have been for Jaylen Brown. Now, the interesting thing with this Kawhi Leonard deal falling through is if it does end up falling through, I wonder if Denver would make a call and swap out Jamal Murray for Kawhi Leonard if they were legally allowed to do so.
From what I understand, the reason this trade is being held up is because of an investigation with Kawhi.
Yeah, and it sounds like, maybe he wasn't as injured for as much as we thought, and the Clippers didn't want to play him, or he didn't want to play. I don't really understand it myself.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's some outside financial stuff, legal stuff happening. I don't totally understand it, so I'm not going to try and explain it. So, but in terms of Wemby, getting back to that, as long as he stays at MVP conversation, consistently getting to the playoffs and making deep runs, he'll be fine.
Now, let me just say this. Again, I think a player like Wemby should take a West. I think he's going to make up more in endorsements. I think guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyrese Halliburton, Giannis, Jokic, Anthony Edwards. I think those guys are in the same boat. You're a number one. To me, you take a West, get a better team around you. A guy like Austin Reeves, though, I would have absolutely taken whatever max contract the Lakers could give me or another situation because I'm an undrafted player, right? I'm not a top pick. I haven't made top dollar yet. So to clarify, those guys I advocate for 100% getting top dollar. Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper. I think Dylan Harper may be a superstar. We don't know. A guy like Stephon Castle or a role player like a Champagnie, absolutely take the max because you may not get another max contract. Wemby's going to have plenty of opportunities to get a max contract.
Exactly.
All right. Well, from the basketball arena to the gridiron, because the Aaron Donald coming out of retirement rumors are permeating, I guess.
Yeah. He was seen working out at the Rams facility. I don't know if you saw this at all or not.
I did see that, but it feels like a story that's been talked about where it's like, yeah, it's how do I put it? This is the worst kept secret in sports that Aaron Donald is going to be a member of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I'll be honest. I don't care if he pulls like what Brandon Graham did last year for the Eagles and only comes back for 8 or 9 games, because Aaron Donald's legacy, as much as me and you do disagree on his impact, and we've had that argument before, he is without a doubt a Hall of Fame player. Many people say he's the best defensive player ever. I don't feel that way. I still feel like Warren Taylor is the best defensive player. The impact that he's had, not only a linebacker, but at the defensive end position. But the point is, he's in the top 3. He's a made man. And if he wants to take a couple years back and come back and play alongside Myles Garrett, so be it. But I think I would feel different about it if the Rams didn't win that Super Bowl championship a couple years ago, which he did make the key sack on Joe Burrow in that game, I give you, if he was coming back to win one Super Bowl to ride off, I'd feel fine. At this point, this feels like ring chasing.
It feels, I wouldn't say it's ring chasing as much as it is like cementing his legacy, enhancing his argument to be the greatest defensive player of all time. Whether I agree with that or not doesn't really matter in this particular case. But that's what I think it is. He's like, if I can do this alongside Myles Garrett and get my second Super Bowl, it's going to be hard for people to argue against me.
Yeah, the funny part is we are coming up our 3-year anniversary of this show, September 5th, 2023. And you've known me and worked with me for 3 years, almost. And you know the two defensive players in the NFL that I have currently called the most overrated are Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett. And they're going to be together on the same team. And I actually think that will help both of them. Again, I think teams in the past, good teams with good offensive lines and good coaches, have found a way to neutralize Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett. I don't give a bleep about 23 sacks a season when you're on a 5-win, 4-win, whatever they were, football team. I care about the impact you make to win games. The difference here will be with that Rams offense, I am going to assume that late in games, they're either going to be tied, trailing by very little, or have a lead, whether it's a big or a small lead. And that will help unleash the pass rush late in games. And that's where I think you could see Myles Garrett and or Aaron Donald take over. But for this comeback, in my opinion, to be worth it for Aaron Donald's legacy, because again, we're talking legacy here. It wouldn't be enough for him to have a pretty good season, 7 sacks, 20 TFLs, and he feels like a good player, but not a great player. No, Aaron Donald would need to win Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion.
Damn, you're setting high standards for him.
Well, he is only the 3rd greatest defensive lineman I've ever seen, and he is how old is he? 35, and he took 2 years off. He retired essentially in the prime of his career. So, shouldn't I have high expectations for him?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think what you're saying is fair, but at the same time, like, it's gonna be him and Myles Garrett. You have the reigning Defensive Player of the Year on your team.
Don't forget Braden Fisk is also there as well. I believe it's Kobe Turner, I believe, is still there as well.
Yeah.
So
we'll get more into this in a second, but if the Rams, after all they've done, if they don't win the Super Bowl this season, it's a complete and total failure for them, in my opinion.
I agree. And here's the thing about football. Outside of maybe the 2020 Bucs, which you could argue was different because it was COVID and there was no fans, and they obviously started off, I think it was 6-5 with Brady that first year, and then they go to the bye week and they turn things around. And I don't know if they lose after that as they made their run to the Super Bowl. But what have you ever seen a stacked NFL team come together like an NBA team and win? It usually doesn't happen because football is very fluky. There's a lot of times in football where we think the better roster is coming into the game. But there's weather at play, there's injuries at play, there's different schemes at play, which is why the regular season is going to matter so much more to the Rams than it will to these other teams, because the Rams are not going to want to go in January to Philly or Chicago or Green Bay or one of these cold weather cities.
Yeah, but the Rams did show that they could go into Chicago and win a cold weather playoff game.
They did, but that usually means you are a road team for not only one, maybe two, maybe three playoff games. It's been done before, but not very often.
Yeah. We saw the New York Giants do it in 2011, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. No, because they beat the Falcons at home in the wild card.
The Packers did it the year they won.
Yes, 2010. I think the Giants might have done it in 07.
I think you're right on that. And Tampa also did it in 2020. Again, that was different circumstances because of the pandemic and the bubble, but they also did not play a home game.
Correct.
All right. Well, you kind of mentioned it. Let's get into this topic now. I'll just read the topic bar on the screen. Does the best team in the NFL, and I'll go to you for this one, Josh, first, reside in the NFC West?
It certainly feels like it, but here's the thing. I don't know who that is. Yes, you have the reigning defending Super Bowl champions in there, but you also have the LA Rams, who we just talked about, and you have the San Francisco 49ers. How sad is it if you're the Arizona Cardinals or an Arizona Cardinals fan that you have to deal with those three monsters in your division and you have to play each of them twice?
Well, I would argue the same thing if you're a Vikings fan about the NFC North right now. I have been arguing for years if you're a Raiders fan about the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos. I have been arguing for years about Browns fans if you're going up against the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens, and you don't have a quarterback.
No,
yeah, sorry.
No,
I don't feel bad for the Arizona Cardinals. They may have their guy in Carson Beck. I don't know. I like Jeremiah Love. Would I have taken him at number 3 with no offensive line and seemingly no game plan? No, I wouldn't. Draft better. That's my answer to that.
Fair. But I have to say yes, that I think the best team in the NFL resides in the NFC West. I just don't know if it's the Seahawks, the Rams, or the 49ers. I truly don't know. You can make a compelling argument for any of the three of them. I think San Francisco probably has the weakest argument, though, of the three because of the health concerns and whether they are going to be able to, keep their team together or if they're just going to become extremely Christian McCaffrey dependent, whereas I have less concerns about the Seahawks and the Rams. I know the Seahawks suffered some big losses this offseason. It happens when you're the defending Super Bowl champions. But I think they did a good job of addressing a lot of those holes over this offseason. Of course, Clint Kubiak leaving is the biggest one, but so we'll see how Sam Darnold does this season. But still, I still feel good about the Seahawks. I don't think they're just going to fall off the face of the earth.
Thank you for making every single point I was going to make, but I'm going to add a few things. So, championship rings fans, this segment is going to be a treat for you because in about a month, well, maybe a little bit over a month, me and Josh are going to make our full 2026 NFL predictions. It's going to be a special one-off NFL prediction exclusive show. We do it every year. It's my favorite show of the year, and I don't even think it's close because we dive into every single team in the NFL, and the NFL is without a doubt my favorite sport. So, Josh, I'm going to give you a little bit of preview of what I think about the NFC West right now because I think you made some good points, but I want to add on one thing. I don't think it's a 3-team race to win the division in the NFC West. I think it's a 2-team race. I do not trust that for a full season, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be healthy. They are the oldest team in the league, and they are incredibly reliant on 4 players. quarterback Brock Purdy, running back Christian McCaffrey, offensive tackle Trent Williams, and tight end George Kittle. And Kittle is old. Trent Williams is very old, obviously, and they have both missed time. And McCaffrey led the league in NFL touches last year. 2 years ago, who led the league in NFL touches? Oh, yeah, Saquon Barkley. Last year, everybody kept telling me there's something wrong with Saquon Barkley. And I kept saying, no, there's not. It's the scheme. But he clearly did not look like he had the speed and the burst that he did the year prior. I think that same thing will happen to Christian McCaffrey, and that's not even taking into effect the defense of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, both coming off massive injuries, and they're getting older as well.
I would say I like the 4 players you mentioned, but I would also include Nick Bosa in there because he has such a massive role in that 49ers defense, creating
and he has an injury history as well. So I will give you that. On the Seattle front, you touched on it, but I'm going to make a bigger point because I honestly believe the biggest, most single greatest loss that any team had of this entire offseason wasn't even a player. I think Clint Kubiak moving from the Seattle Seahawks to the Las Vegas Raiders is going to be a Kellen Moore to Kevin Patullo-esque downgrade for the Seattle Seahawks, a Ben Johnson to, I don't even remember, was it John Morton, who was originally the Lions play caller last year, and then Dan Campbell took over play calling? Like, I think it's going to be that big of a downgrade because I think Clint Kubiak's a genius. I think he was a top 3 OC in the league last year. Remember 2 years ago when the Saints came out of the gate? They started 2-0. Derek Carr got hurt. We all said, what the hell is going on with the Saints? Clint Kubiak was their offensive coordinator. So that guy knows football, and I think he's going to get the best out of Fernando Mendoza out there in Vegas. So I do absolutely believe the Rams not only should be the favorites to win this division, but as much as it pains me to say it as an Eagles fan, yes, right now on paper, they are the best team. Not only in the NFC, but in the NFL. But I think my Eagles are going to have a bounce back year. I think the Lions with Dan Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff, they bring in Drew Pensing, the former offensive coordinator at Arizona. I think they are going to be really hungry. They're going to get back to running the football. I think the Lions, shout out Mr. Jalen Sandvik, I think they're going to have a bounce back year. I think the Bears are going to be really good again, and I think they should be in sort of that Super Bowl watch in the NFC. And then in the AFC, there's a ton of teams who you could make a case for. So I think the Rams right now on paper are the best, but does that mean they're going to even make the Super Bowl? No, it doesn't.
You didn't even mention the Green Bay Packers. They absolutely still belong in the conversation.
So I'm a little lukewarm on Green Bay. I think they're a good team, but they did lose 5 in a row to end last year, and they're going to be out the first month or 5 games or longer without Micah Parsons. And they lose Jeff Halfley, their defensive coordinator. And to me, there are warning signs that are going off in Green Bay where it's like, could they be an 8-win team instead of a 10?
Interesting. No, but like, I forget who the Seahawks replaced Kubiak with. I think it was somebody from the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken.
I will look that up because I honestly am drawing a blank myself. I thought it was an internal hire, but I could be wrong.
Because I know the Seahawks are, by the way, they're under new ownership.
So his name is Brian Fleury. He is the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. He previously served as the 49ers tight end coach.
Interesting. So they did hire from the 49ers.
They did, and it's a similar scheme. But again, I talked about this with the Rams when they went from, or not the Rams, I'm sorry, the Lions, when they went from Ben Johnson to, I believe it was Frank Haley. It might have been who was calling the plays. I don't remember. But when you go from such a genius, and you could say, yeah, the scheme's going to be the same, But when you go from such a genius as an offensive coordinator, a guy who understands the little intricacies of how to manipulate defenses with the quarterback's eyes, to a guy who, to my knowledge, has never called plays before, ask people in Philadelphia and Detroit how that worked out for him last year.
Yeah, but I trust Mike McDonald as their head coach.
Okay, but he's a defensive guy. What does he know about offense?
True, but
Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni were both offensive guys. Now, I think they're more, their pedigree is offense, but I think they are more rah-rah sort of CEO type head coach, but their pedigree was offense more than defense. Mike McDonald's pedigree is defense. I don't deny he is a great and a phenomenal defensive coordinator and a defensive coach. I don't know what he knows about offense because I saw the Seahawks 2 years ago without Quinn Kubiak. That offense was not very good.
That part is true, yes. But again, yes, losing Clint Kubiak is big for the Seahawks. I'm not downgrading the importance of that. I understand that. But again, I don't think the offense is just going to take a major nosedive. Again,
I'm not saying a nosedive, but I think it's going to take a significant. I'm talking like from the best offense in the league to like average, which is a nosedive in a way. I'm talking from unstoppable, putting up 35 points a game to 20. And now, by the way, that affects your defense because if your defense is not top 5 or top 3 again, they're going to be on the field longer. The offense is going to have less time. And by the way, as much as I like Sam Darnold, and I gave Sam Darnold credit because of the way he played in Seattle, we have not seen him be a MVP level quarterback without a great play caller. We've seen what he can do with Kevin O'Connell. We've seen what he can do with Quinn Kubiak. Maybe this guy is the next coming of Quinn Kubiak, but I don't know.
I think we also saw what we got with Sam Darnold in both Minnesota and Seattle, not just because he had great offensive play callers, as you just said, but it's also because in Minnesota, he had Justin Jefferson, and in Seattle, he has Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I agree with that, but it'll be interesting to see. But let's move from the football gridiron to the baseball diamond because the MLB Home Run Derby made its debut on Netflix last night. Josh, I'm more of a baseball guy than you, but I know you were really into this derby, so I'll let you go first here. Take it away.
Yes. So Jeff Passan had this to say. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
There is no audio coming through the screen.
Dang it. I was hoping it would, but basically Jeff Passan said the new format is going to stink because they got rid of the timer, and he's like, with them just going by swings, it's going to slow things down. It's going to grind everything. And I quoted this and sent a tweet to him. You can read what I said, but I'll read it out loud anyway. 2026 MLB Home Run Derby was absolutely incredible tonight. The format didn't feel slow or clunky at all. In fact, it added so much more drama and excitement to the Derby, and it made every swing feel more important than the last. So there's that. There we go. But I loved the Home Run Derby last night. I thought it was fantastic. You know, I had to make the choice. Do I watch Monday Night Raw? Do I watch Home Run Derby? It was no decision. I wanted to see the Home Run Derby. I loved that the Philly crowd booed all the other competitors, and they went nuts for Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. It was just an awesome atmosphere to see, and I loved it. I want them to keep this format. Yes, the ads were a little annoying, like, you know, add 1 of 7. Okay, maybe Netflix could cut those down a little bit. Whatever. Not a big deal to me. But by only having a certain amount of swings, it added more urgency. It added more drama. Like, did I hit enough home runs? It's not, oh, I only have 3 minutes. Yay. Like, that. No. What I got last night was I got really invested. I'm like, I want to see these matchups. You know, when we got into the final, Schwarber hits 11, and you're like, that's got to be enough. Jordan Walker just comes up, plays the villain role, and just goes out and embraces that Philly crowd. And I loved it. I really did. This was the first time in a while I can truly say I was invested in the home run derby.
So I have a lot of thoughts. Number one, I've never been a big fan of the home run derby because I've never gotten the appeal of just watching guys swing at baseballs that are thrown in like lollipops and hitting them out of the ballpark. It used to be entertaining television just to hear Chris Berman yell, back, 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 go on. But we don't even get that anymore. I agree with you that the old timing system did not work. I agree with you. This system was a lot better in terms of that they had a certain number of swings. Now, I would have liked it personally. Again, I don't know why we feel the need to tweak things in life when things work. Don't fix what isn't broke. And to me, the old system where you got 3 outs to as many homers as you possibly could, and it didn't matter the swings, and there was no time limit, was very simple, and everybody could understand. Because the one rule that I think to a casual viewer, if you're just tuning in and out of a commercial or something that maybe you wouldn't understand, is that a round cannot end on a home run. So you may have one swing wide, but if you keep hitting homers all night, you could do it until you get it out. I didn't love that. I think if you're going to keep the swing thing, you got to keep it, pretty plain Jane. This is the amount of swings. Once you use those swings, that's your number, the end. Now, I was back and forth. Unlike you, I actually didn't have to make a choice between Raw and the Home Run Derby because I could actually watch both. Watch a segment of Raw, would go watch a couple batters, would go back and watch a segment of Raw, would go and watch a couple of batters, and I was fine with it. I did not like the commentary at all. It was very bland. I thought Netflix had a beautiful picture. I thought the graphics were great, but their baseball booth, their commentary, the random Ellie Duncan, Albert Pujols, Barry Bonds thing didn't work for me at all. It felt very forced, and that's where I think this home run derby missed a little bit. And I didn't think ESPN did a great job with the derby either. Again, maybe it's just my old school thinking, and I just want Chris Berman back simply calling bombs. The home run derby should be simple. It should not be this elegant, broadcast production that I think the NBA has also fallen into with their All-Star weekend, which is also why I've turned on that.
By the way, think about this. We actually got star caliber players wanting to be in the home run derby. It's not like we got rookies and no-name players. No, we got Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. We've had Juan Soto in there. Shohei's been in it. Guys want to be in the home run derby. Unlike certain dunk
because
contests.
There's really, it's very rare. I know it's happened before, but it's very rare where a player gets hurt in the home run derby. You're not swinging very hard because they're lollipopping the pitch in. You're pretty much taking batting practice, which again, I don't get the appeal of it. It's not for me, but I understand why so many baseball fans love it. I do.
Yeah. It's again, on that note, star players want to be in the home run derby, unlike in the dunk contest where we get players I didn't know, G League players or bench guys. And you're like, who is that? What? What? Why? You know,
Speaking of All-Stars, the best game, undeniably, out of all of the All-Star games, takes place tonight on Fox, where the American League takes on the National League. A tradition like no other. Do I wish they brought back the winner would host the World Series? Yes, I do.
I agree very much so.
But I will say this. The one thing baseball has going for it is, unless you are doing like a home run derby like they had to do last year in extra innings because they don't want guys participating in extra innings in the All-Star game for some reason. But unless you're like lobbing the ball over the plate, it's really hard to not try hard in baseball, because if you don't try hard, you're going to get cracked in the head with a 110-mile-per-hour ball coming right at you right at the middle of the field. So it's sort of a built-in advantage, and it's like, hey, we're going to play a real baseball game and see which league has the better team this year.
Yeah, I'm very much in agreement with you. I wish that they would bring back the stipulation of whoever wins gets home field advantage in the World Series. I loved it.
And I guess like you don't even have to bring that stipulation back, but I like all, and again, I know Brandon, it's an all-star game. Yes, but everybody has competitiveness in their nature. Don't you think people would be more competitive if you put like even a money prize on the line? Like, hey, everybody on the team that wins, you get an extra, I don't know, $2 million incentive, which for some of those guys, because baseball is different. It's not like the NBA. In baseball, you have to have one representative from every team be on so either like Mike Trout, even though the Angels stink, or, somebody from the Royals, like a Whit Merrifield, or somebody from the Athletics. Like, somebody's got to represent you on your team. Some of those guys, $2 million be more than they're making down in the minors.
By the way, I love that with the MLB All-Star game, that every team has at least one representative.
You kind of have to because of rosters. I'll be honest, I don't love it because, again, it is the word all-star, and to me, you do have to earn it. And I think the fan vote, I've said, again, I'm very consistent. You are probably so sick and tired of me saying this because I've said it for 3 years. Fan voting for all-star games is stupid and dumb because fans have biases, but it is designed for fun, so go wild. It doesn't hurt my feelings. How about that? If I see, for example, Cade Smith, if he didn't make the All-Star game, it wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah. Did you see the story about Zach Wheeler? Like, he's been one of the most dominant pitchers in MLB this season, and he got snubbed from the All-Star game with the National League. And then Major League Baseball tried to throw him like we're sorry type of token by saying, well, now we'll invite you to the All-Star game. And he said, no. And I was totally fine with that. Even though the game is in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park, his home stadium, like, why would I accept your pity invitation? Like, I wasn't on the initial invite. Why would I accept your pity offer now? I loved it.
Championship rings fans, I'm going to do two things I rarely do on this show. Number one, I'm going to agree with everything Josh said, which is a rarity. Number two is I'm going to plug my own show for a second, because on Brandon's World today, it's about an hour and 27 minutes, so you can listen to it in the background while you're doing something or whatever. But on the Brandon's World podcast feed today, we bring on somebody that's been on this show before, a friend of the show, Sean Fitzgerald, and we do a deep dive into all things baseball. We talk about almost all 30 teams. We talk about the Zach Wheeler situation. We talk about the impending lockout. We talk about the Derby. We talk about Netflix and the Peacock and the NBC and the new media rights deal. So if you're a baseball fan, it's an all things baseball conversation today on Brandon's World.
Very nice.
And Shall we go now? We were not. The funny thing is, before we get into the next topic, let me just say something. I'm the WWE guy. I did not want to preview Saturday night's main event because I did not feel like that it wasn't a SummerSlam worthy show. In my opinion, they kind of did throw this card together. I kind of figured Josh really wasn't going to be that interested in previewing it, so I left it off the rundown in favor of talking about the major title change that happened on AEW Dynamite, which we are going to get to. But then Josh tells me, no, actually, I do want to talk about this show. So Josh, take it away.
So most of the card is just like, whatever. We have the women's tag team championship match. Brie Bella and Paige defending against Fatal Influence. Okay. We have the Roman Reigns, Jalen Brunson segment thing. Makes sense. The Knicks won the championship. It's at Madison Square Garden. Sure, why not? JD McDonough is facing Danhausen in what's going to be essentially a comedy, goofy wrestling for life type of match. Okay.
I will say this, though. This is a big spotlight for JD McDonough. To my knowledge, this is his first ever one-on-one match on a, I don't know if you want to call it a PLE or it's a TV special, whatever you want to call it. This is his first big-time moment on a main roster, and he's working with a guy who, let's face it, yes, I agree with you. It's very similar to Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 38. It's going to be comedy galore, especially because it's a no disqualification match. But this could be a way to get JD McDonough over and eventually a babyface. I mean, I really think they are giving JD a real spot here and a ball to run with, because it very easily could have been JD versus Dom. Dom is the more marketable star. But no, they gave it to JD. I think it's significant.
And I think this is going to help push forward the story of the Judgment Day breakup. So, yes, it's going to be comedy. Yes, it's going to be goofy. But it's going to serve a purpose. But then last night on Raw, because I did see this on social media, we got the segment with Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. I thought they were going to save match number 1 between them for SummerSlam, because Lyra just turned heel and you want to have that big, first match in what's probably going to end up being a series of matches at SummerSlam. No, it's going to be Saturday night's main event at Madison Square Garden, Lyra versus Bayley. This one kind of came out of left field for me. I think it's going to be a great match, don't get me wrong, but it's surprising that they're doing the first match, the one that kind of sets the pace for everything, after Lyra's big heel turn at Saturday night's main event. It feels like a really weird spot.
And I've said this before, I am disappointed. I think one of the biggest things over the past year that WWE has fumbled has been Bayley's momentum, especially because she was building that great character where she was going crazy and then she would be happy and then she would go crazy again and Lyra would have to calm her down. And then that character seemingly disappeared. Bayley and Lyra, I thought, had a great story going into WrestleMania, where last year Lyra won the women's tag team titles with Becky Lynch because Bayley was taken out. And at that point, Bayley didn't know that Becky Lynch was the one to take her out. Then Lyra and Bayley feud with Becky over the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Then they get a tag team. I thought, give them a tag team title run. They never gave them a tag team title run. And so, listen, I don't know. Bayley's sort of in this weird stage that a lot of the women right now on the roster are in, which is, you've been in title feuds before, but at this point, we don't want to give you the title, so we're going to let you work as a babyface and try to get Lyra over, which I thought Lyra was starting to get over as a babyface, and then they turn her heel, and she looks good as a heel. I'm interested to see how her ring work transitions to being a heel.
By the way they're portraying her as a heel it or I shouldn't say it resembles. It reminds me of Tatum Paxley down in NXT. Could this be their way of getting Tatum up to the main roster to pair her with Lyra and form this new faction, stable, whatever word you want to use, to go against Bayley and another baby face?
I'm going to be transparent. I don't watch NXT, so I really don't know anything about Paxley. And so if that does happen on the main roster, it will be new to me.
Fair enough. You probably would disregard this, but there is speculation that maybe Bayley's not going to re-sign with WWE, and she might end up coming over to AEW. I don't know if you saw Mercedes.
And I did see the post, and I'll be honest, at this point, I would not blame Bayley, and I think Bayley should. And I've said this about Sheamus, who I know is no longer with WWE, and I said it about the New Day, and I'm going to say it about Bayley now. These are people that, in my opinion, AEW should not only sign, they probably will sign. They will get used, and they will eventually be used somewhat because AEW is going to end up signing way too many more people that WWE releases. But WWE is now telling you, we are in an age movement era. And yes, there are guys like the New Day, and there's guys like Sheamus, and there are women like Bayley who are viewed as WWE lifers, and they've done everything in the industry. And I get it. And they're signing these lucrative contracts. But if you're not going to be used on TV as prominently, and you're getting paid the same like you are, I totally understand from both sides. I understand the wrestler side saying, no, I am worth this. I want to be paid. And I understand WWE saying, hey, at this point, we want to go in a different direction. It's best for both sides to get cut. So if Bayley leaves WWE, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And I actually think it wouldn't be a bad move for her to go to AEW.
And then we get to what's probably going to be the main event.
They did announce last night on Raw that it will be the main event.
Okay.
Now, I'm wondering, because they said this will be our match main event. I am wondering if that means the actual main event will be Roman Reigns and Jalen Brunson, but I'm going off this for now.
I would guess the Roman Reigns, Jalen Brunson thing is going to be the main event. It makes sense. Again, the Knicks won the championship. They're in Madison Square Garden. It's Roman Reigns and it's Jalen Brunson. But it's this strange tag team match. Gunther and Sami Zayn versus CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Of course, kind of all four of these guys are tied together because you had everything with Cody, Gunther, and Sami going into Night of Champions and Clash in Italy and all that. And then Punk beat Sami for the title. And now we're set to see Cody versus Punk for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. So all four of them are tied together in this weird way. I'm still trying to figure it out. Even though I did just explain it, it's still...
I think you did just explain it. There's nothing to explain. There's nothing weird about it. The story is Cody and Gunther were feuding over the championship. Sami got himself involved in the championship with Cody. Sami becomes a special guest referee in that match against Gunther. Sami wins the championship. Then Sami and Cody supposed to have a rematch. Gunther says, F you, Cody Rhodes. I'm going to take him out because, Sami, I want you to beat Cody easily. Well, Cody can't compete. So CM Punk dresses at his house, comes to the Allstate Arena in Chicago, walks for the back door, and now is champion. And Gunther still feels like he's owed a rematch from Night of Champions, even though he really doesn't, but in his mind, he does.
Yep, and we're probably going to get him versus Nick Aldis at SummerSlam.
And what will probably be, if you want to call it a career-threatening match, or I don't know what you want to call it, but if I'm WWE, I don't have Nick Aldis take off his shirt till SummerSlam. I want him to come out at SummerSlam with his suit on, and he just rips that suit off, and you just get this ripped guy. Because Gunther has been calling him a failed wrestler. I'm not saying Nick Aldis is going to win that match, because I don't think there's any shot in hell he's going to. But I want Nick Aldis to give me every single bit of wrestling that he did on the indies, because as a WWE fan, I don't know Nick Aldis' work, but I've always heard about this guy, a lot like Adam Pearce, former NWA World Champion. I want to see that guy in Nick Aldis.
When I say it's weird, like the whole dynamic of this is weird, because on one side you got Cody and Punk, who are going to be opponents at SummerSlam, but now they have to work together in this tag team match. And on the other side, you have Sammy and Gunther, who were involved with this whole thing with the WWE Championship, and now they're being put together as a tag team. So that's the weird part for me, and that's where the whole even though I did just explain it, yes, but it's still confusing and doesn't totally make sense, even with that whole thing. Does that make sense?
I would have booked the weirdest match ever at the start of the night's main event, because I would have booked CM Punk and Cody Rhodes as a tag team, but I would have booked him against two different competitors. I would have booked CM Punk and Cody Rhodes teaming up against The Shield, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, and I would have put a stipulation on it. The winner of this tag team match got to main event night 2 of SummerSlam.
Yeah. I did see that match floating around on social media.
Well, because, or you could also think about all the connections between, and I get it, Gunther and Sammy have this too, so you really could have did different versions, right? You could have done Punk and Sammy against Cody and Gunther. You could have done Punk and Gunther against Sammy and Cody. You could do Punk and Roman against Seth and Cody. You could do Punk and Seth against Roman and Cody. You could do Punk and whatever else. You get what I'm saying? I got mixed up on my combinations there. All three combinations all have history with each other.
Exactly.
So, but shall we get to what happened 6 days ago on AEW Dynamite, because a new world champion was crowned and his name is Kenny Omega. MJF is no longer AEW World Champion.
Yeah. This happened at Beach Break, and of course, MJF put the stipulation in place that he did with Hangman, who is also back. It was just randomly announced that he was going to make his return at Collision, which he did. But going into that Texas Death Match, the only way Hangman got MJF to agree to that being a Texas Death Match is if he agreed to MJF's stipulation that if he lost, he could never challenge for the title again. MJF put that same stipulation in place with Kenny. Of course, Kenny ended up winning, but I thought they were going to do this match at Redemption, because the name of the pay-per-view is Redemption. It's happening in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Kenny Omega is from Canada, so I really thought they would do the title change there. But no, they did the title change on Dynamite. There's arguments going around that AEW only did it to try and steal the thunder because, of course, Punk won the title against Sammy on Monday Night Raw. I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. I believe they were doing it to sell all in London tickets, though I don't understand why, because in my opinion, MJF is a bigger star.
Whatever reason, they think people want to see Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay at Wembley.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard that match has happened before where the MJF Will Ospreay match, I don't know if it hasn't happened or it hasn't happened in a long time.
So Ospreay MJF happened the last time they did All In at Wembley.
Okay, so it would have been a year later.
Yeah. And Ospreay, Kenny Omega did happen at Forbidden Door in Toronto. That was when Punk was on the show. So it was I think it was 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, does Kenny have a match for Redemption yet? Or are they going to announce it tomorrow?
And he does not have a match for Redemption, which is weird because Redemption's in 2 weeks. It's on the 26th of July. Unfortunately, I will not be in town to watch it. I will be in South Carolina. In fact, I don't know if I'll be able to watch SummerSlam either, actually.
Oh, you're going to be in South Carolina that whole week?
Yeah. But I will try and still do the show. I'll stay in contact with you about it. I just might have to do it remotely.
Well, we're already doing it remotely, so you're
you know what I mean.
You mean
in a different location? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I'm just pulling your rib. Listen, hearing you talk, because I haven't heard anybody float this idea out there. Is there a shot they do a triple threat? Omega, Ospreay, MJF?
I believe that could very well be the case, and I would love it. It definitely seems like that it could be going in that direction because MJF and Ospreay have really been going at it. And Ospreay basically cost MJF the title on Wednesday because he was going to use the Dynamite Diamond ring. Ospreay comes down and rips it away from Max.
Oh, I did watch the match. It was pretty good, except my biggest gripe of the whole thing is when MJF hits Omega with the championship and he kicks out at freaking one. Like he didn't even hit him with the championship.
AEW likes to bend the rules.
Yeah, that's the AEW. Listen, it is the AEW style. The fans eat it up. It's not my cup of tea. I think it makes the product look terribly silly. So there's a difference between comedy and just bad wrestling. That's my point of view and my point of view only. I get it. Dave Meltzer thought it was 5 3/4 stars. He thought it was the greatest match he's ever seen. Once again, convenient.
To a certain degree, I can understand what you're saying. So I'm not saying you're crazy or you're talking out of your butt or something like that. I personally love it. I think it's a different style, like you said, and I
think there's place for it. Like WWE does it occasionally. Cena and Cody did it in their match last year at SummerSlam, and I didn't love it either. Cena does the AA, the Avalanche AA from the top rope, and Cody kicks out. I'm going, what the fuck are we doing? Like, one of the reasons why I love Baron Corbin, speaking of a guy who came back, because End of Days is the most protected finisher in wrestling.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see what WWE does with him because he came back and kind of inserted himself into the United States Championship picture. But
no, I'm very curious because from what I was reading from the AEW audience, it seemed mostly positive on Omega, but it was sort of mixed. And the mixed part was like, what do you do with MJF now?
Yeah, that's the weird part is I don't think you run the rematch at Redemption, but you can't really build a legit title feud in 2 weeks to where...
The one thing I will give AEW credit for and why this does feel like a big moment, and I could be wrong, was this the first time the world title changed hands on Dynamite since Moxley beat Punk?
No, I think so. Moxley beat Punk for the title on Dynamite. The only other time I can think of the men's world championship changing hands on Dynamite. Oh, no. Darby beat MJF.
Oh, that's right. Darby did beat MJF. Yes, you're right. I don't know how I blanked out on that.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought that was right off a pay-per-view, right?
That was right off of Dynasty.
Okay.
The other time I can think of it happening, Winter is Coming, MJF, Kenny Omega clonks Moxley. I meant to say
John
John
Moxley. Basically a pay-per-view on Dynamite.
Yes. I did mean to say John Moxley. I don't know why I said MJF there, but
I guess my point is it doesn't happen often. So when it does happen, there should be some shock value to it. And I do give Tony credit for that.
Yes.
See, I'm not being all negative.
Yes. It was announced that All Out is going to be in Chicago at Now Arena. And they did just announce that Full Gear is going to be at the Phoenix Suns Arena. Hey, Tony, Cleveland wants a pay-per-view, please.
That's right. You guys still have not gotten a pay. That does seem weird to me. Cleveland does deserve a pay-per-view. I will say that.
Cleveland hasn't even gotten a Dynamite yet this year.
Wait, they haven't been in Cleveland at all this year?
No.
Well, I do. They just announced, I don't know if you saw it, they're going to do a double taping of SmackDown and Raw at the end of August. I don't know if that has something to do with it.
I don't know. Yeah, that is. I did see that Raw and SmackDown is going to be a double taping. I thought it was just going to be a SmackDown.
Originally, it was a SmackDown. I already have my tickets for SmackDown, so I get 2 shows in one.
Yeah, have fun.
Which will be interesting. I've never been to a double taping before. Some people say they're awesome. Some people say the second show is a snooze fest. So
yeah,
we will see.
Kenny's supposed to have like a championship celebration tomorrow on Dynamite. I'm sure somebody's going to interrupt during that. We'll see. We only have one confirmed match for Redemption right now, and it's Tekla against Willow Nightingale for the Women's World Championship. And the winner of that will face Mercedes Moné at All In for the title. Who the champion will be, most likely Tekla, but well, she has to get through Willow. But we don't have any other matches confirmed for Redemption. I'm sure some will get confirmed tomorrow night on Dynamite because you kind of have to. This is what AEW usually does. It'll be like 2 or 3 weeks out, and they're like, okay, here's a match for the pay-per-view. Here's a match for the pay-per-view. Oh, guess what? Here's another match for the pay-per-view.
Shall we get to maybe the most disappointing main event in the history of UFC? I gotta tell you, if you blinked, or if you're like me and you clicked on the Big Brother live feed for 30 seconds to see what's going on in that crazy house in the CBS WAD, you missed this fight.
Yeah, because McGregor makes his walk to the octagon. He looks fine, and he goes to do like a jumping knee strike or something, and immediately gets injured. And my guess is it's an ACL injury of some sort from the way he was moving or not really moving. Holloway won this in, I think, like a minute or so. Yeah. It was so anticlimactic, it's not even funny.
So since you brought up a tweet earlier that you sent, I'm going to bring up a tweet that I sent out on Saturday night watching this fight. It says, I'll read it for you if you can't see it. Hashtag UFC, I think I even got the hashtag wrong on the number even, but UFC has gotten the TKO effect like WWE. Where's the company that would give you great fight after great fight with star after star? Now you get quick fights and a bunch of ads.
Yeah, I didn't like that they had ads during the walkouts. That was very annoying. I did not like it. But overall, yeah, it's not like UFC can control how these fights go. They just make the matchups. It's not scripted like WWE where...
No, it's not. But there was something watching it, which, again, I thought I forget what they're calling it, Freedom 250, I think is what they called it at the White House, was put together so much better than this. I don't know. Something was off about this card. I tried to tune in again here and there. Something was off about it the whole night. The vibe was off. And the McGregor getting injured and then Dana White afterwards attacking the media about it. It's very strange. Like I said, I know you're a big fan of UFC. I used to be a fan of the UFC. I'm not as much anymore. I think UFC has sort of lost its luster, and McGregor coming back was supposed to be this big moment. And I think him getting injured, again, no fault of his own, but it is everything that's wrong with the UFC right now, in my opinion.
So the reason I might or might not watch Saturday night's main event is because the UFC does not stop. There is a UFC fight night happening this week. 2 former champions are facing each other in a middleweight bout in the main event. You got former UFC middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis taking on former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. This is a very interesting matchup because, like I said, they're both former champions. Usman is coming up from welterweight, which welterweight is 170 pounds. He's moving up to 185. Dricus is the natural middleweight. So that storyline is there. Again, they're both former champions with good title reigns. And they put on excellent fights during their title reigns. And they're both trying to stay in the title picture, which the middleweight's interesting because Sean Strickland beat Hamzat Chimaev, so he's the middleweight champion. I presume we're going to get a rematch between those two. But Chimaev absolutely destroyed Dricus Du Plessis to win the middleweight title. And in the welterweight title scene, we've got the champion Islam Makhachev. He's set to make his first title defense against Ian Machado Gary in the main event of UFC 330, which will go down at Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia in mid-August. So that's kind of where things are at right now with the UFC. I want them to come back to Cleveland. UFC hasn't been in Cleveland since 2016. I was there. It was one of the greatest nights of my life. Awesome atmosphere. Definitely an enhanced atmosphere because it was Stipe making his first title defense. But still, Dana White, please bring the Octagon back to Cleveland. I don't care if it's a UFC fight night. I don't care if it's a numbered event. Bring the Octagon back to Cleveland. There are UFC fans here. We will bring it to Rocket Arena. Bring the Octagon back. It's been 10 years. Come on.
Question for you, because I have not gone to one of these, but I have a friend who goes to a lot of them and says they're a lot of fun. Have you ever heard of or been to this event? And I know it's mostly in Akron. It's called Cage Thunder. I think it's something you would enjoy.
No, I've never heard of it, never been to it.
From what I've been told, it is not UFC level, but it's really good fighting.
Okay. I might have to look into it. Before we go, I know you haven't really been paying attention because you don't really care about soccer, but France got shut out today.
Oh, they did.
2-0 against Spain. So France will not be going to their third
Wow,
straight.
they were my pick. They were dominating. I was following along because I was going to put some money on France. Thank God I didn't.
Yep. They lost today 2-0 against Spain. So Spain is headed to the World Cup final. We will see if they're going to play Argentina or England. That game is happening tomorrow in Atlanta, I believe. The final is going to be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, which I think is a horrible pick. That stadium is absolute garbage.
No kidding.
The fact that the Jets and Giants still play there is really disappointing, but this World Cup has been absolutely fantastic. The fact that you said last week you'd rather watch a bad basketball game instead of like soccer, I'm not letting you off the hook for this. Soccer is fantastic. Like, you have no idea. This World Cup has turned me into a bigger soccer fan. These games have been great. We've had like Cape Verde pushed Argentina right to the limit. Egypt, for God's sakes, was up 2-0 until the 78th minute when they blew it. And Argentina came back to win. England was down to 10 guys basically in a road game at Estadio Azteca down in Mexico, playing against Mexico, and yet they ended up winning 3-2, I believe it was. You know, you had the U.S. making their great run, and Belgium ended up stopping that. I know, but everybody was swept up in it. It looked, for that U.S.-Belgium game, it looks like Looming Field, or I'm sorry, Seattle Stadium, was going to bust out at the seams. Dude, you got to watch the World Cup final on Sunday. Whether it's Spain, England, Spain, Argentina, it's going to be a great game. You gotta watch it.
Well, it is designed, the World Cup is designed for people like me and you to go in every 4 years and cheer and watch soccer. I'm not denying that. The World Cup, to me, is what the World Baseball Classic was for you, right? I mean, you told me you were not into the World Baseball Classic. You didn't really care about it. And I thought the crowds were amazing, and I thought it was great theater. I'm more of a baseball fan than you are. You're more of a soccer fan than I am. I really see no difference.
But I'm going to keep following soccer beyond this. Like, if I had to pick a team in terms of Major League Soccer, it's got to be the Columbus Crew. I was at the Miami versus Columbus game here in Cleveland a couple years ago. I've been to a couple Crew games down in Columbus. They're a lot of fun. Columbus fully embraces that team. And last year I went to Hell is Real, which is a great rivalry between the Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati. But it's a great sport. And what I love about it is the goals are huge in soccer. So you would think you would get scores of like 5-4, maybe 6-5, things like that. No, you're getting scores that maybe it's, you go a whole game and it ends 0-0, or it's 2-1, 3-2, 3-1, 2-1, 1-0. I love it.
Listen, soccer to me is like golf. Very entertaining to play. One of my favorite sports to play. To watch, you'd have to pay me a lot of money.
So you're not going to watch the World Cup final on Sunday?
I mean, I may tune into the second half if it's a close game, but it's not on my must-to-do list on Sunday.
Oh, you're ridiculous. You are unbelievable. Come on.
I'll be checking in as I'm seeing what tea is going down inside the Big Brother house in the CBS lot.
Oh, my God.
You gotta understand, man. The Big Brother universe, it's different. These people are nuts. They're insane. They're crazy.
Messi, if Argentina wins against England tomorrow, Messi, who is the GOAT, is going to be going for his second World Cup championship and what's probably going to be his last World Cup because he's like 39.
But as a member of the U.S., why should I care?
What?
What do you mean, what? He doesn't represent my country. Why should I care?
Oh, come on. You're playing that card now?
I'm not playing a card. I'm asking a legitimate question, Josh.
Oh, my God. He's one of the biggest stars in sports, not just soccer. He plays for Inter Miami.
Never even knew that. Never even knew that.
Oh, my God.
I don't follow soccer. That's what I'm telling you.
You are unbelievable.
Here we go again. We're going to end the show for the second straight week in a row on Josh saying that I am unbelievable. And so we'll be back next week on Lone Edition Championship rings. Will we have a decision from LeBron? Who knows? What I do know is we will actually talk soccer because a FIFA World Cup champion will be crowned. With that, have a great weekend. Enjoy all the sports, including the FIFA World Cup. I certainly hope all of you do watch it because it's going to be a great event. I acknowledge it will be. Fox has done a tremendous job with the coverage. Just not for me. That's okay.
Do yourself a favor. Go watch it.
And have a beautiful weekend, guys. We'll be back next week. And peace.